stopping and restarting recording. So it's been a long, beautiful summer, right?
Yeah.
Mm. And yeah, back to work. And winter is coming. Not for you, Herbert. Never. But for us in the Western Hemisphere. But yeah, Uganda is still on the Western, or yeah. But yeah, you were muted, Herbert.
Sorry, we are right in the middle.
Yeah.
I sit right on the equator, so both hemispheres. I am enjoying both.
Yeah. The best part of both.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, I guess we will get right to it and discuss some of the new things that has been added since last we had this kind of meeting. And so I'm gonna share my screen, entire screen, and something like that.
Yeah.
And one relatively recent thing was that we changed the MDriven Designer installer, because that installs this small application that actually calls the click once. And now that shows up like this, and it gives you a few seconds before it starts to download. And those seconds are can be used for starting the cached one that you already have. But now I actually wanted to have the new one, but that popped up on another screen. So that is good to know if you're in a low bandwidth situation, which one finds oneself in from time to time, especially me on trains. Now everything froze. I don't know what happened.
Or airplanes. And Starlink is down.
Let's see what it was. Something with Windows and expand screen. So that tricked up. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna do like that, and then yeah, this is a bit annoying, but still not annoying enough to switch to Linux, because that has another bag of annoyingness to it. So yeah, so that was the first thing that we should mention, that you should refresh your MDriven Designer installer if you haven't, because then you get that option to see what's new and to keep the old one. So I think that's very good. Besides that, the main things that at least I have done has been around Blazor and Blazor components, because I wanted to see if the promise of staying a bit in C# and being in Blazor would make it easier to create components for different reasons, and mainly to maintain them, because ending up in too much JavaScript is it's okay, but it's really expensive to maintain, because you end up trying to find silly mistakes where they shouldn't be, and all of a sudden you have spent a couple of hours and there was some kind of silly mistake that was obvious once you see it, but it could be like a small letter when it should be a big one, or something like that. So more type safety with the Blazor will help us to move things further. Of course, the browser is still first or natively JavaScript, so there is, even when we do Blazor, there's a lot of JavaScript that might be needed, but we're gonna try to keep it to a minimum. I'm gonna do a new file, and feel free to break in with questions when they pop up. I can replace that one. No, probably shouldn't replace that one, because then we crash with something else. I'll call that 2. And so how do we find the Blazor components to demo them? They are here in a GitHub repository. So under a new catalog called X Components Eraser. And then we have these new things here. And of course, one needs to have a project to show these components, and I'll put those over here. So we might want to watch this first. I'm going to merge in this project, and having done that, I got classes and things here, and then since that was called I took this one, right, the Google Things example. So then I'm gonna use the Google Things components for this. I'm gonna use this, and with the Blazor components there's quite a few files, pre-compiled files, but also some scripts. So for each component I've tried to use this type of strategy to have a usage instruction txt file. We can just quickly mention what these different files are. So the DLL, it's just what it sounds like. That's a C# assembly, and that will be used by the runtime if you run Blazor server-side, because that's compiled with the standard .NET. This other one, that's compiled for WebAssembly, and that will be used when you use Blazor client-side or Blazor in the browser. And these other two are the same, but they are compressed in different ways. So that depends on what the browser will request when it tries to download the assembly. So this is still for Blazor's client side, but depending if you're on a Google Chrome browser on Windows, it will probably ask for the GZ compress, but if you're on Safari on Macintosh, it will probably ask for the BR. So those are that's the explanation of those.
Brotli and GZIP.
GZIP and yeah, Brotli. Is it what it's called? Say that.
Brotli. Brotli.
Yeah, good.
It's a Swiss bread roll of some sort, I think.
Yeah, different compression algorithms, but if you were to unpack them with a specific tool, you would see that it's the same thing as this one. And the usage instruction, let's see if I open that. It's a plain text file which I aim to feed to an LLM in the end to help us vibe these components, but currently that's not in place. So basically it states what you need to do, to what kind of tag you need to set to get a component, and where that component can go, and what kind of columns it expects to function properly. So since I've done that, now I should be able to start my server, and we can go to a new browser, and this just, yeah, since the thing that I merged in this Google Things example also has some prototype data with it, so that's I think a good practice for me to continue it, to put some test data in so that you immediately can see if things work as expected. So this is the Google map that has been encapsulated, and I've added there's an instruction on how to add a marker. You need an action, and then the component will look for that action. So if I double click something somewhere, a new marker will be added, which actually is just a, and you see that flashing? That's something with the Blazor grid. It will add a new position object. So let's look at, this is just how the model for this looks. It has the thing class with center, latitude and longitude, and some zoom, because that was what was mentioned. Latitude, zoom, longitude. So it has those, and of course it needs them in the view model where it's picked up, and then a list of positions with latitude, longitude, and title. So that means that we can do things like if we hover this, it has no title, but if we set something, it should have a title. And these things are a part, it's a separate library, but you, Dennis, use this for Husbils kompisar, I believe. So I think it was pretty good. It's a way to consolidate markers when there are many. So if you zoom in, you can see that there are actually 2 markers here. Yeah, actually this is probably 2 markers on the same spot, because I had a problem with this. I created too many. But if you zoom out, these will be grouped together at some point. So there are 4 markers here. So that's quite good, because then we can, it renders faster when it doesn't need to plot 1,000 markers when we zoom out to the world. So that's a good thing. Yeah, what's more on the map? So when we do things, one thing that we might want to do on a map is also regions to draw a geometry around something. So then we can go like, gonna add a few markers to say where the geometry should be. Oops, that seemed buggy. I did not know where they went. Okay, so I'm gonna cancel away. They all went away. So you're gonna drop some here to see what happened. Drop. Nothing seems to. Okay, now we're back to having them at least.
Well, 3 of them anyway.
3 of them. Okay, so I'm not sure what happened, but we have, this works bad, way to put a label called polygon marker, or what is called, it's called, let's look up the view model for this. It's the view model 1. No, it's the, no, had to be number 1. This is the one. So polygon if set. So what that means is that if I set the same label on these, on the same value on polygon, they will be grouped into a polygon, is the ambition. So I'm going to just set Q on all of these, and then those markers instead form a polygon. So I can add a Q on any one of the other ones, and then it will be a crazy polygon of some kind. Yeah, and it brought in one of those as well. And if I remove, so that's a practical way to be able to, so the ambition is to be able to do a polygon by adding, not sure why it zooms when I double click, but it's a lot of things I'm not sure about in this world, so I'm not gonna, like that. I have a polygon around Skåne.
Yeah. Does it always create a convex hull?
No, it depends really on how you do the, it takes them in order. So you, if you, you can manage by sorting the positions correctly, then it will be good. But if, so what I mean is, if you do it like this, double click, double click, double click, double click, then you have something else.
Then you get an hourglass.
Yeah. So I haven't done the math to automatically straighten this out, but I'll leave that up to you. So that might be a practical example of a component that can be usable. So one of the good things with the Blazor approach is that I dynamically load the scripts. What does that mean? Well, that means that the scripts aren't necessarily in the element of what we load initially. It's when we access the page that requires them that they are loaded asynchronously. So I think that is good, because that if you have a large application, you might have very many components, and then it's risk that it gets bloated by loading all these scripts. It will become like the newspaper Aftonbladet. They load like everything in the world when showing you the news.
Yeah, 3 megabyte front page.
Yeah, so that's a good practice. But since we load the things from Google, and I call this component package or the assembly for this Google things, that means that there are other things than the map, right? And that should be the charts, Google Charts. So we can flip between different chart types: the bar chart, the columns, the lines, the areas. And again, the data series for this, it's made this series value, and it has dimension and value. Dimension is the x-axis normally, if it's not a flip view, and the value is the y-axis. But then there's a series by, which enables us to have multiple graphs in one graph. So that's what happens when we have this blue one and this red. So we can put in this series by thing to have as many graph types as we want easily. And there are different types of this that might come in handy for things. And when it comes to
Can I ask just a question also?
Yeah.
Maybe obvious and everything, but I can, for example, have transient clauses, so I can generate a lot of like data in memory and show it in a graph, right?
Correct. So since this is just the format that you need it in the view model when you're handing it to the component. So if we were to look at this particular view model 2, it would look like this. So this is where I pick the graph type, and that's just a string denoting the different types that we support. And what's important is this series list of the values, and that has the dimension, series, and value. So that should be obvious after reading the usage instruction for this. So Blazor Google Things series chart. So where that particular information goes is up here on the Google diagram as a tag value. So Blazor external component, and then that value from the usage instruction. And then that one expects the same column name underscore values. And that is what comes here. The same column name as Google diagram. Google diagram values. So that's the value series that actually will be the graph. And any way you see fit to generate these, of course, okay. It's only the names in the view model that needs to match in order for it to pick up values, and these columns need to match, and then it will draw something like this.
A follow-up question there, maybe you've said, but this is a Google diagram, or the Google thing inside Blazor. It's like oil and water, or Windows, or Macintosh, or something.
Yeah. So
is this something you have created, or have you imported something into a Blazor thing and turned this mix? It's like you have put something to mix oil and water here.
Yes. So the Blazor glue or interface layer is the layer where I call a tiny bit of JavaScript to actually load the scripts from Google. And what I've tried to do whenever possible is to leave them at the CDN, the content delivery framework, so we don't need to pump around scripts because we're not the author of those scripts, so we just grab them from, in this case, Google, and that makes the component really lean. But then we of course need to understand and hook that JavaScript a little bit, and that we do. But then we call that from the Blazor C# code and hand over the data as the data changes. And of course,
something you're loading in the Google thing from their CDN, and then you're manipulating the data that thing sees, and then it's on screen, right?
Yeah. So then I feed it with the data that I've had a chance to massage with C# Blazor. So that makes to me that makes things easier, because I can keep it really, really as the Google examples show it in the JavaScript, and there's very little things that should change in the JavaScript going forward, even if you want to do things, add functionality with this. So, and of course it depends what kind of functionality. There's probably things that we haven't done that we should do, but things like if you click the label, we should know we update which label we clicked on, so that we can check that with the view model code to react, to do something special, like navigate somewhere when you push the blue one, or show another diagram when you push this one. And if we take these, we also get access to the values. For some reason, the pie chart wouldn't, those are calculated values, so that might not be the same thing. So one can click these things and get these values set in variables that you can then act upon if you want. Yeah, so that's one type of component. We can check a new one which might be even more interesting because it has new possibilities. So I'm gonna call this demo 3. So all of these components are might be a bit rough. Whoa, everything died. So now I took the cached one. Yeah, the examples that I'm gonna show, they are not that cleaned up. I've gone for quantity over quality initially to actually get things done, even if it doesn't look that good, because I think we can find time to improve on this. But I'm gonna merge in another one. This, for example, the Gantt examples, I'm gonna merge in that, and then I will need the component Blazor Gantt chart. Use that, and restarting. So what I should have done is name things a bit better and clean things up a bit, I guess. But this is showing multiple things, really. Firstly, it shows the ability to build the hierarchies, indefinite hierarchies. So we can build trees using nothing but view model. And that is managed with, I think I showed this the other time, that we have this special for recurse. So if we build a nesting, we can say that we should recurse up to this one called thing. So from here, we can go up to here. So that depends on how the data looks, but this tree can then go on forever. And of course, that's it, a tree view. And the problem has always been when we have a component that's pretty stiff, it's finished, and everything inside it is decided by the one who did the control and not by us using the control. And we wanted to get away from that to allow any kind of usage so that we only get the benefits of the control, but not the stiffness or the rigidness of the control, being able to put things, what goes inside the control ourselves, to design that ourselves. And that's what this component actually shows, because once we have the tree view, which builds up this, we get a list of details. And that list of details is what we call a Gantt row. And then we can put this component on the placing container level. So that's new. We couldn't do that before, to actually influence how the placing container should render. But that is what the Gantt row does. And what the Gantt row does then, because we have all of these things playing concert. So up here we have another component called Blazor Gantt date scaler, and that's this component. So this is the date scaler that denotes a time scale, and these Gantt rows below here are actually just placing containers with this special component added on it, and they in turn have something called a Blazor Gantt time item interactive. So things we place there will actually be time items that, given their attributes, so this is part of the contract that they should have a start and a stop. That start and a stop will correlate to this date scale. So that means that we can visualize data distributed in time, and we can visualize any kind of data. We are in full control over what should actually go inside one of these time items. Can I show that? Well, if I were to give this another name, save that. So I don't necessarily need to have a button in the time item, but I do. And this button seems to add 2 days to the start and stop. So that means if I push this button, it moves like this. So I can also drag and drop things between lines like this. So I can move it to another line to assign whatever that should mean. That will be actions executing on this, like accept new time item will execute, and then I can decide what I want to do with that data that comes in this way. So this is might not look like much now, but I think it's quite profound to be able to control how this component renders, because whenever I've done these kind of things before, I've decided how the time item should be inside the component. But now that's just a placing container thing, so I can add anything I want here at this level. Potentially I could add another component inside the time item. So I could possibly add a map inside each time item, or a graph or something like that, and or a full view, or just something simple. So maybe I don't even want the button to be here, and then I can just delete that one, save, and then I'm left with an editable text field, which might be what I intended or not. So I think this will prove interesting to use in different use cases to show data in new ways.
Have you found how should I think about this? I can see that it sounds like you also have this lack of words maybe, or how to say that, but you have a component and you put other controls next to that, and because it's in a placing container, that like become a module. with the data back to it? Is that how I should think about it?
Yeah, so normally a placing container has two major positioning aspects to it. It can either be a column or a row as a flexbox, but giving it component logic, one can override those limitations that it only has two ways to position itself on the screen. And what a time item placing container does is that it doesn't care about if it's column or row. It cares about if there's a date scaler component above it. Then it cares if it has a start date and a stop date. And then it cares, can I calculate an absolute position based on that start date and stop date from the date scale? And it does inside the context of the Gantt row. So that means...
So you're basically, is it like you're hijacking the component and you use that to move, you let the positioning be dependent upon the data and it can move anywhere really?
Yeah, so that's so depending on what the component logic on a placing container should mean. In this case, it means take over and override the positioning of it. But it could mean something else entirely as well. So that's one way to use this ability. And this is, I've only implemented this kind of logic for Blazor because I'm reluctant to do that kind of work in pure JavaScript. It's kind of hard. But one thing, for example, the Gantt rows, they are positioned alongside or at the same X positions as the date scaler, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense. And that's the one of the functions of the Gantt row component, to listen for the date scaler to see where that is so that we can move that around. I think it's super cool, and it will dawn on you guys one of these days, I think, if I can clean up my examples. Maybe we should just look at the third example, because that is also partly... Yeah, maybe we can...
You have only 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So, or maybe it has to be a cliffhanger. If you start showing it and then it's like, sorry, time's up. And then everyone has to come out to see the final thrilling conclusion.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. Gonna add a new and save as, and then go to here and say that I want to merge in the one called this pivot example, and I'm gonna take the components for that here, and then I'm saving this, and oh, it died again. I'm not sure what's going on. Something new that isn't very... So I need to run it in the debugger to see why it fails so brutally.
You hope that AIs don't get too much power. I'm just doing something while you're talking, because I heard someone saying, what if the AI listens to a Linux developer and the developer says, well, I better kill the children when the parent died?
Yeah.
Like, whoa, what are you talking about? Killing children? And then, of course, if you have the context, you know that that's a parent process and the child processes. And you said, yeah, why did it die so brutally? And I hope you're just talking about processes in your machine, Hans, and not something else.
Yeah. So I can just quickly explain what this is. Again, I do the thing example here, but here I have a board column and a board card. Maybe I should show the other... wasn't there another view model here? This is board. So this is thing view model 1. Let's see if I can explain that. Thing view model 1. It has, again, one of these placing container components. This one calls Blazor Pivot. And this requires that they're in whatever data it's going to show, that we have something with a Blazor Pivot cell. And that cell should have a pivot X and a pivot Y to know where it should go. And then the whole placing container is hijacked from being either column or row to being a CSS grid. So that means that this one that apparently is going to be on position 2 and 1, probably this, I can move that around like this. And that means that and since I don't make any assumption on what's in the cell, that's just normal view model content. So these can have any kind of data that you see fit. That's back to normal view model editing, but still they are fully designable to go to jump around the way you want them. So I think that's pretty cool, because you can have buttons that actually does some logic as well if you need to, and take up the same space, etc. So that's one effect. But having this ability, we can then use that over and over to simulate a Kanban board, because there's a few extra components that allows drag and drop to do this work. So we can move things like this. So this is only this generic component, but there's some issue with that one. That allows me to do this Kanban board without limiting what I have in the cards. That's totally up to me. I can do whatever I want inside this. And that's new, because the Trello board example we did before sort of assumed that the headers should only have one label called header. But now this is just a placing container, and you can put anything you want in the header. And the card should only have one big text. But you can have anything. You can have an editor in here if you want. So that opens up a whole skew of flexibility that we didn't have before. So, and I think this is an important addition to get the component at this level, because then components is not only how things look, and components are mostly about behavior, and that's new. I guess I'm out of time, but what do you think?
Looks neat.
Yeah. So we'll see what we will do with this, but we're going to do some more compound examples that find the last bugs in these things to get them to behave good.
But if you look at, I just have to applaud the flexibility that has come the last year to the whole UI, and it's going from strong to even stronger, right? So because I've been doing some development in when we work as consultants, right? And then you can really see how much flexibility and control one gets over the whole UI with placing containers. And it still can get very, very complicated. So, but that's data complications raw usually. So you really can see how tricky it is to build a UI that has a lot of data in it, but it also opens up for so much smoother experience when you have these sub-columns. So I find the sub-columns, if you don't use them, have a look, they really open up a lot of data-driven flexibility, because then you can, when you use placing containers and you have a row, for example, with things, then if you hide things before, when you used grids, you couldn't let the UI collapse when data is not needed. But now it's really simple to let the UI collapse and not show things that are not active at the moment. And that really opens up a whole new thing, and because everything is subscribed, right, you don't need to write any code to make it happen. You just let everything play out the way it usually does. You have a header, you just add the label, says what it says, and the visibility, the colors, the clauses, everything can just be calculated. And because everything can be calculated and you don't need to care about how to really refresh it, the UI can just change a lot just by doing things. So super cool. So I think this then with the AI things, that will be the cliffhanger again, I guess, because I know there's things going on with the verbalization and the AI and like verbalization. I mean here, how do we express what a system is doing and using AI to assist you in making the UI. So that's really cool. And again, I find it interesting now that there's already, you could say it only took a few months before people started realizing that you can only use AI in sections, right? You can't ask the UI and the AI to redo your entire application every time you ask it something, because it gets it wrong, in the fringe, and then you ask it to correct that, and then it misunderstood that part that you already had locked in. So you end up in an endless loop of AI misunderstandings. So I think that it was, I hope
That's not too different to how it is to deal with a development team.
that's the whole thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's the really good part about modeling, because then you can switch things. You're rather secure on what influence what in a very clean way. And I've never really pinpointed what the good things about modeling is, but maybe that is one very important aspect, that everything is self-sufficient and isn't necessarily depending on other things unless it's very explicitly depending on other things. There's no vagueness.
I think so. And it makes it really scary if you think about, I'm going to do a business thing. Let's say take Lovable, this Swedish startup that they're valued at $1 billion now in some investment they got, right? And then you kind of express what you want your business thing to do, and you let it create, let's say, 10,000 or 50 or 100,000 rows of code. And then you update the business thing, and then you let it guess again a whole new code base, basically. So then you have really entangled the code with the business logic. I can't see it really working out, but it will be super interesting to see the future of this. And so I guess we will come back to this again and again and again to see how we can, make AI do these things. And also on views, I think that's super interesting, because you can really see the good with AI is it has some really good understanding of the world in general. And I think maybe, can I say that before we cut off? Yes, I have 30 more seconds maybe to say. I think your idea there, Hans, was really interesting when it comes to, instead of letting the AI realize your idea, how about you say, I want to develop an app for this business, and you let the AI be the one who talks to you what to implement. So if you don't know exactly how to implement something, you can let the AI be not the doer, but the one who tells you what are the requirements.
What is the end goal? What does a user want to have for this to work?
If I'm shipping packages and I want to do the views that shows shipping information, what should I put in it? If I'm going to send this to Alexandra in Germany, well, you need the postal code in German style, and you need this and this, and they have the German Reich something here, right? So the AI knows all those things, and you might not. So it's a really good way to get like the generalized information about a use case.
Yeah.
Just hand it to you.
Turning the AI into the requirement specialist, not the implementer. So.
Well, so let's, yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for stopping by.
We haven't given any. I can stay 1 minute if questions. Alexandra, do you find your way to the post office?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna yeah. I just want to say that it's a good like refresh of on the examples that we already have like on the in the sort of like cases for the MDriven, as you can, the app that you can try on and reuse, as I remember correctly. We have like this examples and cases of models that you can try out, and this is like a good point and kind of like an upgrade to those, because before that, as you showed before, the Trello board and the map case, and that work with Blazor, it's like totally different level to what we have right now, and it's a great point to put out there and just promote it as a variant of a playground for you to start with, or even just upscale your thinking process, whether you wanted to work on the Kanban, or you wanted to work with the maps, and yeah, it's a nice upscale point. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we'll see where this leads, but anyway, we will be back in a month with some new things, I hope.
Yes, and I talked about talking about, yes, sorry, but I can just, you can turn off the recording. Said that I think I'll